In a few seconds. Okay, so I hope that everybody is in. Welcome to the webinar focusing on sports with an American flavor. Sports that are increasingly becoming global. I'm Vlad Spencer. I'm talking to you from near Washington, D.C. Our co-moderator, Anna Tadevosyan, is in Yerevan, Armenia. This not Yerevan, but webinar is part of the International Sports Programming Initiative of the State Department Sports Diplomacy Division, and is produced by World Learning and Digital Communication Network Global. So a little bit of background. Recently, I noticed that several days a week, since the COVID situation improved here a little bit in the United States, a group of men from my neighborhood, not all of them from countries where cricket is very popular, gather in a park nearby and basically play the game of cricket. It is a sport less known in the United States, a sport that becomes increasingly part of our multicultural reality, bringing together, as it is the case here in my neighborhood, people of different ethnicities, different backgrounds. They play the game they love, and some of them actually learn the game that they didn't know before, in this case, cricket. In connection to that, and to what I described, we thought that it might be a good idea for us today to explore sports that have an American flavor, that are usually identified with the United States, like, for example, American football or basketball to some extent. And they become increasingly global. They are embraced, they are played, they are watched outside the United States, abroad. Even if we don't have a panelist focusing on baseball, if there's anybody actually in the audience who knows a little bit about baseball being played abroad, let us know and we'll involve you in the conversation. What we hope to hear is basically the personal journeys our guests went through by playing, organizing, mobilizing, or reporting on these sports all over the world. More than anything, and since we are part of a public diplomacy program, we'd like to know what Nigerians or Moroccans or Brazilians learned about America and themselves while developing this passion for a sport, in this case, football, for example, that has this American flavor. And if we are going to be able to connect with Coach Johnson, who is in a remote area of Nigeria, and we are trying to establish a connection. In his case, he's a true legend of developing basketball in Africa, and we'd be very interested to learn what he learned about the continent while doing that. So this is a kind of the theoretical context. This is what we are trying to accomplish in this webinar with your support, the audience, and I want to thank very much our panelists for taking the time to be with us. By now, you all know about Zoom. Fortunately and unfortunately, we became very familiar with this medium of communication. We count on your questions in the chat room. And keep in mind that our goal is not only to have a good conversation, virtual conversation, but not only that, but rather to create a network. We actually created a network, a pretty large network of more than 1,500 people through this webinar since last March. And we are trying to develop that. So this means that, please introduce yourselves, please ask questions, post links. Our speakers are going to do the same thing in order to make this conversation more fruitful and meaningful for all of us, since we are trying to explore this new and great topic. Now, I know that Ryan Murphy, our amazing partner from the State Department, can stay the whole time. So usually he comes at the end of our webinars. But if you have some connection, either sound or picture, maybe you could want to say hello. And I want to ask you a question if you are if you'll be part of the webinar, to start with that. Obviously, State Department does exchanges, sports exchanges, or public diplomacy. And I was wondering if you did, over the years, exchanges focusing on these sports like American football or baseball or sports that are actually typical for other countries, like the example with cricket that I gave a little bit earlier. So Ryan, if you hear me and if you could connect if you could say hi.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Vlad. And thank you all for allowing this kind of slight program shift. Normally I come in at the end and say thank you to everyone, but I'll say thank you in the beginning. I have to jump off in a couple minutes for another training session. But first and foremost, thank you to Vlad and Anna and everyone within World Learning for doing these webinars. Thank you to the great panelists who will speak about their experiences in these kind of, as Vlad said, traditional kind of American sports, and how they've really taken a foothold in a lot of other countries around the globe. To go into Vlad's question, yeah, we've, as the U.S. Department of State, what we really focus on is that true people-to-people connection. And we, in the sports diplomacy division, use sports as that medium. And we have been very successful in using quote unquote traditional American sports like baseball, like American football, flying disc golf. We've done a ultimate frisbee, a number of other programs overseas that have worked. We also, in all of the programs that we do, whether we're bringing a group from overseas to the US or sending a group of Americans overseas, we really encourage those groups to get outside of the box that they're in and what sport that they're focusing on. If we are bringing a group from overseas to the US in basketball, we try to ensure that they can focus on seeing another sport or trying another sport when they are there, or vice versa. We also focus exclusively on disability and adapted sports. So if you are coming to the US for a traditional basketball program, we try to show you wheelchair basketball or a different type or variation of basketball while you're here. So we do try to do those adaptations to the sports and to the groups that do travel. A few examples, we have done a few programs within Russia with American football. So there's a couple different pockets within Russia that are very proficient in American football. We did a program with Project Harmony a couple years ago, and they worked with a group right outside St. Petersburg that was doing American football there. Prior to the pandemic, we had actually 2 different programs that we were getting ready to get up and running with American football in the eastern part, the far eastern part of Russia. We were going to send someone from the San Francisco 49ers, as well as Jen Welter, who's actually the first female coach within the NFL's ranks. And they were going to go to Vladivostok and Ekaterinburg to do a program in the Far East, Russian Far East. We also were going to follow up with that on a 2-way exchange international sports programming initiative focused on American football. So that has since been put on hold. But we also see a number of countries that request traditional quote unquote American sports like baseball. In Turkey, we've had some requests. We've done some programming, a lot in Europe, but we've done a lot of traditional baseball programs in East Asia. So Korea, Tokyo, or Korea, Japan, China. We have a number of sports envoys that we've worked with, primarily and most notably Cal Ripken Jr., Ken Griffey Jr., and others, Barry Larkin, who have traveled to these locations and have done baseball programs on the ground there. We don't always just focus on the sport. One trip, most notably, we sent Cal Ripken Jr. to Japan, and it was after the Fukushima earthquakes and then the subsequent disaster with the nuclear reactor. And Cal went to really kind of bridge that bond and talk about sports and ways that sports can play that role to bring communities back together after a disaster like that. So again, we don't try to just focus on sports itself. We have a number of foreign policy goals that we try to address, and a lot of these sports do that. And a lot of you know that because you're working in that space. So again, I won't belabor this point too much more, but I just wanted to say hi and say thank you to everyone for joining. especially to the panelists and especially to World Learning for putting this on.
Thank you, Ryan. And obviously, World Learning helps to get at least one football program, American football program in Nigeria, because right now we have a very strong, partnership being developed. And one thing I want to mention is that I was talking before this with Shukon Mecca from Nigeria, and they work with the U.S. Embassy there. And obviously, to some extent, the U.S. Marines that are actually passionate about football, so they do tournament, they do all kinds of activities in relation to American football. So I hope to hear more from our participants about this as we advance, with an emphasis on their own experiences, and the transformative value of sports. And that being said, thanks Ryan for being with us. And we'll send you as usual the recording of this to watch the rest. So Anna is the floor is yours right now to start introductions for our participants.
Thank you.
Hello
Vlad.
everyone.
Hello.
And also to let everybody know. So when you don't speak, please mute your microphones to be able to actually have a good flow of the conversation. So Anna.
Thank you. I want to welcome all our participants and our speakers, and I'll start from our first speaker from Nigeria, Chukwuemeka Amadi. He's a founder and board chairman at American Football for African Mission. Chukwuemeka, welcome to our webinar, and floor is yours. I want to, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Cool. Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah. I would like to ask you to tell us why you choose American football and how it helps in society there.
Yeah, hello everyone. Glad to be here on this panel today, speaking about American football development. My name is Amadi Chukwuemeka. I'm a coach, American football, as well as also I'm a peace advocate and ambassador for peace with the World Peace Track. Football had come to us, in the year 2010, when we, embraced the sport. I began, coaching football since 2010, coming from, a rugby background, and then taking up football. The idea was there was not much difference between football and rugby, and then being in that, pool, where I see kids across Africa being very athletic and then having all the right characteristics to learn and as well as to play. I took up the initiative to begin to, teach them about a new sport, which is football. We went ahead to, build up a team, and then we got inducted into the university, which is Ahmadu Bello University, Zaria. And we began to build the university team. It took us 6 years, building on the team before we have the second rival team, which we have as the Lagos Marines. And we had an official game on the date on the 15th of March, the year 2015. The match was a great match. The game, a lot of people came out to see a game of football for the first time. And then we have well over 3,000 spectators. Everyone was enjoying the game, even though they don't even have a complete knowledge about the sport, but they were happy to see young men, of that age, coming together to play a new sport in a new environment. The second game took place in Lagos at a stadium called the Campus Mini Stadium, where we have, a cultural meltdown of both people coming from the U.S. Embassy and then the German consulate, because the team at Lagos was coached by a German consular, Dominic Muller, and then members of the German consulate with the U.S. Embassy there in Lagos, as well as spectators across the whole of Lagos came out, to grace the occasion. And you can see the beauty about the sport, bringing people of diverse ethnicity, diverse religion, diverse countries coming together to embrace a game. And it was a great moment for each and everyone, and a great experience. We went ahead, to go abroad, the game, taking up the game to West Africa. There was, again, we had to brand the Go West. It was again with an Ivory Coast team, the first international friendly games with a team in Ivory Coast. It took our team 3 days to go across the borders, going through Benin Republic, Togo to Ghana. And then in Ghana, we were able to have a camp in Ghana, Cape Coast, Ghana. We could see the sheer enthusiasm of the kids in Ghana to embrace a new sport. Although rugby has been ongoing in Africa, in West Africa at large, And then having these kids embrace a new game of football is no-brainer. They found love in the game. You can see the enthusiasm in their life that they want to do a new thing, and that's what football brings about. The sheer will, to play, the sheer will to get improved, the ability to communicate, the ability to move towards a common purpose. This is what football brings. We went all the way through all the borders checks, to get down to Ivory Coast. There in Ivory Coast, we have a diverse culture, diverse religion, diverse language in French. We couldn't speak much of the French because I couldn't speak much of French. But then, they have a common language, which is football. Everybody understands football. The rules are the same, no matter the borders you cross. All it matters that everybody want to play a game, everybody want to see a game, and everybody wants to be participate in the sport. And then it was a whole lot of experience for us going all through 3 days down to Ivory Coast and coming back again 3 other days back to Ivory Coast. So we had a wonderful game. Coming back, to Nigeria, I began to, put up, a lot of things together to be able to help and to establish the game, not only in Zaria, where we started up the game. We wanted to spread the sport. I consulted with the Ministry of Sports. I was consulting with the US Embassy. And there's something peculiar that happened when you have to talk about American football. In the US, we say football. But over here, because we want to differentiate between American football and soccer, the traditional soccer we have to say American football. And so when we went to the CAC, that's the Cultural Affairs Commission of Nigeria, because we want to register an organization. It baffles me to say that they refused us the registration because they wanted us to get a clearance from the US Embassy that they were using the word American, because we say American football. They were like, no, the word American has to do with the United States. And so they wanted us to get a clearance, a patency clearance right from the US that this is the case, that American football is attributed to the sport, not American. So we had to write down to the embassy, and then we got the public affairs department to give us a note, which we forwarded to the CAC, and then before we could get registered. So these are part of the things that happens over the years, trying to get people to understand the word American football, the game in itself, and how it's in play. So we find ourselves trying as best as possible to go in between the cultural the heritage of where we are here in Africa and that of the United States and what it entails. And this is a lot of success we've been making, because the year 2017 had us set up a youth football league for the first time in West Africa, having a workable league, having kids for the age of 6 years old to 13 years coming together to learn a new sport and as well as play in their first championship. We were able to have about 1,000 kids came out in the city of Zaria and then embrace this sport. We were able to build 8 teams of 53 players, and each and every of them, had an opportunity to play 3 games throughout the entire season. It was full of life and vigor. You can see in the lives of these kids that they're enjoying the sport, that they can be able to learn very effectively and perfectly. Within 3 months, these kids were able to learn the rudiment of the sport and able to put up a good show. We have the US Embassy supported that, through the public affairs, public diplomacy, grant scheme, where, that was a great moment for the US Embassy in the sense that, it was a worthwhile investment for the embassy. We were able to consult with the local chiefs and in the Zaria enclave, the Emirate Council, which have to do with the traditional rulers, because we're trying to bring in, the US culture, marry the US culture with what we have with the Northern culture per se, because when we come across, various borders, various ethnicity, various, enclaves, there are already workable civilization, there's already workable, culture and constitution that's governed a particular people. And so for us to be able to effectively, bring in football to marry it into the traditional fabrics of the community, we needed to get to the local chiefs, we needed to get to the stakeholders, the son of the soils. And that's what we did, getting to the emir of Zaria, whom in himself endorsed the sport and saw need for this sport to be enshrined in the community Zaria. And it took off from there. Everybody embraced the sport. And throughout the 3 months of the season, people were coming out in their troops, to come and embrace a sport of football, and the kids were enjoying it. And at the end of it all, we had a winner and an MVP. Many parents came to see their kids play football for the first time. They didn't know what the sport was like, but they saw the commitment in the life of their kids, going every day for practice because they want to be able to play. Many kids were seeking out one help or the other from their parents because they want to get involved. This is what we want to do in the society. You know, we have a lot of people, a lot of interest. Football is what brings us all together. We have to stick together to fight our common differences. That's what football brings about. Football is inclusive. Football embraces everybody irrespective of whom you are. Your size doesn't matter in football. You know, what matters is your commitment. What matters, you know, is your commitment, you know, the sheer size for you that you want to be able to do a new thing, you know, the love, that the passion that you have in there to be able to play amongst your mates. One peculiar thing that happened during our time, you know, in the Youth Football League is we have kids coming from economically disadvantaged homes, kids also coming from wealthy homes for the first time in their life, coming together to play in a common ground. And that baffles me in the sense that without football, without sports, we couldn't have these kids come together. They couldn't have the opportunity to play together because, of course, the rich kids find a better playing ground for themselves. Why also the less advantaged and the economically disadvantaged kids, you know, have a different place and a different way to play. But in this case, both kids, we are coming together and embracing themselves and playing together. That's what we want to do. That's what we want to project in football, that everyone is inclusive, everyone is loved, everyone can play, irrespective of your background, and that you can use it as springboard. Over the years, through our football program, we have been able to facilitate scholarships, academic scholarships for kids to play, you know, in universities, in colleges, you know, in high schools, abroad, and also locally. This is part of what we've been doing so far in football development. And then something else, you know, living in West Africa, when we went, you know, all the way to East Africa, Uganda, it was another different thing entirely, coming to a different culture, a different part of Africa, having to embrace people, you know, that have different ideology and different, you know, system that works for them. But one peculiar thing is that football was something that everyone wants to get involved in. And so in Uganda, down in Kampala, we had the opportunity to coach the coaches. And it was a wonderful experience for us all, in the sense that we have well over 100 coaches come together to learn the sport, and as well as, you know, going down to their various communities to try to improve the sport. We went all the way from Kampala down to Lira, that's the northern part of Uganda, where for the first time we were able to get to St. Katrina School. It's an all-girls school. Before we came to St. Katrina, the girls were already enthusiastic about learning a new sport. They had well about 4,000 girls in the school, ready to embrace football. And before we came onto the pitch, these girls are already warming up. And then we saw that they were so very, very high in spirit that we were ready to, you know, give everything we have to them. And as well as, you know, continue to coach and encourage them to continue to, you know, walk in the space and continue to develop their football. So football is a global something. It's a global thing for us. It's a global experience. And I myself, in the heat of it all, I'm happy to be in that position to continue to improve and to continue to help as much people to improve in football. Yeah.
Amazing programs. And Anna is going to go to the other speakers. Now, in the meantime, you know, if you could check a little bit your microphone, because there's a little bit of a noise, you know, under your voice. So Anna, let's go to the other speakers.
Yeah, our next speaker is Fuzia Mathouni. She's from Morocco, and she's the president of Weekend Morocco, also a founder of Jaguars American football team. Fuzia, welcome to our webinar, and let's hear from you why you decided to play American football, being a woman, and it's not very common that women play American football.
Hi, everyone. I hope everyone is doing well. And first of all, I would like to thank you for the opportunity that was given to me to be here and know a lot of amazing people. First of all, I was playing sports since I was a kid. But I never had a sport which is require teamwork. So one day I was coming across a lot of photos on Instagram, on Facebook, for a girl that she was wearing helmets, and they asked her, "What's that? I wanna know what's that." And she told me, "This is American football." I know the sport, right? I mean, by movies, by pictures that I came across, but I was like, yeah, I would like to do it. I would like to do it. I'm a small person. and everyone was looking to me. I was, why are you gonna play? But the thing is that I learned about American football. It doesn't require any size or gender, which is something that I'm happy about. So I get in that team. I played. We were like 3-4 girls that time in 2014. Only a few girls playing American football next to the boys. Nobody's taking us seriously, and especially when you came from an Arab country, and I mean, and religious country too. So people are like giving you that look, which is, mm-mm, this is not how it's supposed to do things. You can have a husband and stay home, and the thing is, we were like trying so hard to play. We wanted to play. We wanted to have something in our own, which is playing American football in our country. We faced like a lot of issues at the beginning, which is the field. Since we played in on the beach, we faced a lot of issues, which is equipments after. But after 2016, I guess, we linked with an American organization that was helping us getting all the equipments that needed from the NFL, from other colleges, was amazing. And we covered most of the team in Morocco, the equipment. So we started the league, but didn't complete because of we started the league in 2019, but didn't complete. But we this year we are trying to do our best in order to make it happen. And after we were trying to do something for the girls, because I am so feminist. I like to give the women opportunity, because I know if she managed to play football, she will do everything. So in 2021, after COVID, I mean, COVID still exists, but we went to Egypt, and we played the first international cup, female African cup. And we played against Egypt, and we played against USA too. It was a guest of honor. We had like Phantom's team from USA. It was a guest. He was a guest of honor, and we had a lot of fun and a lot of experiences. And during that time, I don't know if most of you know, I had a surgery before that game, 2 weeks before that game. Since on COVID, I was diagnosed with breast cancer stage 3. And I didn't know that I would be able to play again. I had no option. I was like, this is something that cannot happen to me, because I'm an athlete. I want to play football. I want to do this. I have a lot of people that I impacted in life. If I stop playing football, my life is gonna be stopped. Even during chemotherapy, I hold the ball. I took the ball with me to chemotherapy. It was so emotional to me. But I know that one day, I know now I cannot walk, but one day I will be. One day I will be doing a lot of good things. So yeah, I went to Egypt on January 7th, and it was just 2 weeks after surgery, and I played the game, and we won. And it was like changing points. I was like, even the doctor told me that I cannot play now. We can do it. I mean, God, this is God's plan. So we came back from Egypt. I received an email from the embassy that I was nominated to a program, which is one of the amazing programs. I was happy about that. And now we are working with the US Embassy to create the first African caravan for the women. The age is going to be around 16, 14. We would like to do the first high school tournaments in Morocco. And I'm trying to expand American football all over the country, and especially in rural area, urban area. And we can Morocco. Our goal is to educate through American football, not only play American football, because without education, the kid will never go that far. And I'm trying to connect with a lot of people from the state. I reached out to the president of NAIA, and they are really interested in giving scholarship to the African women to play flag football in high school. and college, sorry, and which is amazing because even that opportunity I didn't have, but I'm trying to give it to the next generation, which is that this is what I'm trying to do. And I mean, if you have any questions, guys, let me know.
Yeah, before Anna gets to the next speaker, I want just to read, while you're speaking in the chat room, Stacy wrote amazing, Talar wrote very inspiring. So, truly amazing experience you have had, and amazing, way to present, something that is both personal and collective and so meaningful. So, we'll get to questions. Anna, let's advance.
Great story, Fuzia, really very inspiring. You are doing really good job. So we'll go to our next speaker is Paula Ivogla from Brazil. She's a founder at NFL de Bosla and a commentator at ESPN Brazil. Paula, welcome to our webinar. And I know that you are writing the stories about women in sports, in American sports, American football. Can you tell us why you choose to write and if you love the game or you play the game?
Hello, Anna. Hello, everyone. First of all, thank you for the invite, for being part of this amazing webinar. Fuzi, this was an amazing story, so inspiring. Well, I actually don't play. I have no skill for that. So I just choose to watch and talk about football. So it's my thing. But actually in 2007, it's when I started watching football. I've always loved sports. Every sport I've always watched it, and American football was always something that I was curious about because it's different. It's totally different, especially from soccer, that what we mostly have here in Brazil. So I wanted to understand the rules and why the guys were hitting themselves all the time. Because the game stopped like all the time. I didn't know what was happening, but when I started to understand this strategy behind the game, that what catches me, because I've always, I thought it was amazing. All this strategy behind the American football is really something that I think it's amazing. It was love at first sight. I think at the beginning, it was just a hobby, like spending the whole Sunday watching football. But after 2016, after a turn of events in my career, I was a system engineer with a solid career in the market, but I wanted to do something different. And then I decided to do something I love, that's football. And then I created the website NFL de Bolsa. It means like NFL in a purse, or using purse, because it was something that I wanted to do directed to the women, because in all the games that I watch on TV, the broadcasters, the commentators always says that, well, women are always sending messages talking about football, the audience in between women are growing in Brazil, but I didn't know any other girl that loved football as I do. So that's why I decided to do the website and to gather more women to follow football and enjoying football. And then when I created the website, it grew really fast. And around 8 months after I launched the website, on International Women's Day, ESPN invited me to be part of the show, ESPN League, to talk about football and my project. And after that, at the beginning of the season, they invited me to be a guest commentator in the first Monday Night Football. Beth Mowins was broadcasting the game in the US, and they wanted to do something similar in Brazil. So that's why they invited me. The whole experience was amazing. And after that, they invited me to work as an official commentator for them. And so I became the first woman to work as NFL commentator in Brazil. And football is growing a lot here in Brazil. Like, we have more than 200 teams playing football. Women and men, they love football. And now we are the third biggest market in the world, behind only the US itself and Mexico. We don't have any pro programs. We're not professionals. There's no professional league here in Brazil yet, but I think it's just a matter of time because football is really growing and Brazilians are enjoying football even more. I think because that maybe they kind of get boring about soccer sometimes because the quality is not as good as it used to be. And they are seeking for something different. And now with internet and all the access that we have are making this possible, to more about another sport and especially American football.
Thank you very much. And I think Coach Johnson is here. So our last speaker, he's again based in Nigeria. And he's, like Vlad said before, a legend of Nigeria, and he's a basketball coach. He's a founder of Basketball for Peace. Coach Johnson, can you hear me? I think he's muted.
Yeah. So this is part of the technical difficulties that we have, and unless we could get Coach Johnson, just to tell the audience, he's truly a legend. In the 60s, he went in a Peace Corps mission in Nigeria, and he stayed behind. And since then, he single-handedly basically put Africa on the map of global basketball, including the NBA. So even if we don't get him out,
can I intercede for him a little bit?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Okay, my name is Andy Petty. I am one of Coach Oliver Johnson product. This man is a great man. He's done a whole lot of stuff, not just for Nigeria, but the whole continent of Africa. I have 2 years ago, myself and a couple other people were trying to get him recognized. I seriously believe if Oliver Johnson was a white person, he will be recognized in the mainstream American media.
Mm-hmm.
Now, let's take for Mother Teresa, for example. Mother Teresa, for what she's done great things and she was recognized. I'm not trying to take anything away, but here is somebody, Oliver Johnson, that has done a whole lot for Nigeria and the whole of Africa, help a lot of youth, thousands, if not millions. Some of them have become CEOs. Some of them have become NBA legend. Some of them have become an accountant, lawyers, and politicians, entrepreneurs, thousands, not just in basketball. And meanwhile, this guy is not getting the recognition that he needs in American media, not only American media, but the rest of the world.
And not only in Nigeria, but not many other countries.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So he's done so much. Now, we get people that get Nobel Peace Prize and everything, but look at what he's done. We're talking about thousands of millions of people in Africa, not just one particular country. I'm not trying to take anything away from Nelson Mandela. Nelson Mandela in South Africa did a very good job, but that's just one country. This is a guy that has done it for many countries and the whole continent of Africa. You name anybody in Africa that are involved in basketball, either Oliver Johnson are directly involved in inspiring that person or indirectly.
Yes, thank you. We'll definitely, obviously with our little contribution that you could make, even if he's not there, probably we should dedicate a whole webinar to Coach Johnson and what he has done. And I can't support to actually do that because you're right. That means, I read only one article about his life story, and it's absolutely unbelievable. That means what he did for the sport, for millions of people, as you said, in different professions. But even if you talk only about basketball, the caliber of players that actually went through his hands and mind and everything, and he developed players, managers, important figures within the NBA. Even if you focus only on basketball, it is truly remarkable. And it's something that needs to be recognized, as you said. And maybe we could make a little contribution that maybe might lead to a bigger contribution eventually to get him the recognition he deserves. Right now, after his life mission, is more or less accomplished. Africa is on the map of global basketball, and not only. And he plays an important role. So thank you so much for these kind words. Just let him know if he doesn't connect, that we'll get back to you and to him, actually to do a separate webinar with him.
I will contact him right
now. I'm connected now.
Definitely.
I don't know.
Okay, so let's move. Yeah. So a few words to advance a little bit. So you're the player that you mentored introduced you the way you deserve, in an amazing way. So maybe you could add a few words, and what we said is we are going to do a separate webinar with you only about your experience, the whole webinar, to give more people a chance to hear. But maybe you could add a few words, Coach Johnson, if you could hear us.
Okay, well, basically what I had done, because I have so much to say, I just wrote a 7-minute paper. If you want me to read it, I can go ahead if I still got the 7 minutes. But if I don't, then you can ask the question. I'll go ahead.
Definitely. Just maybe without the paper necessarily, in a few words, your amazing life story, if that is possible.
Wow. Anyway, let's give thanks to God that we are all here alive today to be able to witness this event. In looking back on my 81 years of life, my conclusion is that the Almighty has been carrying me and clearing the path so that I can do basketball, which is my passion, and even get paid to do it. My advice for everyone listening is, if you are in basketball only for the money, make sure you have another profession to fall back on. The more in depth, maybe Andy jumped on this, the more in depth story of Coach OBJ is actually documented in the book 80 at 80, which is available in DC now. If you can get the number is 202-415-63.
Yeah. We seem the sound is not working very well, Coach. So we lost you. Okay, so again, as I said, we are going to do a special webinar. We'll get the book and we'll make sure that that gets enough exposure. Right now, we cannot hear you. That means the sound has many interruptions. So let's move on, and maybe the sound is going to be fixed. And I want to see, while you're talking, I established connection with a couple of other people, and just to give a kind of a fuller story about sports with an American flavor. For example, I was talking to Tommy Goodman, who developed baseball in the Caribbean. So if Tommy, if you could hear me and if you could speak a little bit, just very briefly about your experience developing another sport with American flavor in the Caribbean. And if Tommy cannot do it, then we'll get to a question and we'll move on.
No, sure. I hope you can hear me.
Sure, Tommy.
Yeah, so my name's Tommy Goodman. I'm based in Washington, D.C., and for several years, I ran an organization called the Caribbean Educational and Baseball Foundation. And we were founded to build bridges between the U.S. and our neighbors in the Caribbean through a shared passion for baseball. And the initial focus was on Cuba, and we viewed the sport of baseball as something both countries love and as sort of the common denominator, and had some really interesting success in both community development, youth development with Cuba. Of course, always battling the political headwinds, but still engaging on the grassroots level as we could. But as the political headwinds kind of turned, we also increased our programming elsewhere in the Caribbean. And one example I just want to highlight is Jamaica, because Jamaica you don't always think about as a country that plays baseball, but through our outreach and through different conversations, we learned that there had been 4 Major League Baseball players from the island, and we ended up connecting with a few of them and went down there with one named Justin Masterson. And it really was an interesting experience because we worked with both the Jamaican government, the U.S. Embassy in Kingston, nonprofits and companies there too. And the point was, if a culture, if a community loves sports, it really is the connective tissue that can bring people together. So even though a glove and a bat and a ball were sort of foreign objects, after a few minutes of running around, you see that kids love sports no matter what they are. And then, once you start playing together, you can start talking about issues outside of the baseball diamond. So unfortunately, a lot of our ambitions and our goals in the Caribbean were cut short for a series of COVID-related challenges, but still the passion is there and the potential is there to continue to use baseball to connect communities and cultures.
So we are very happy actually to include baseball because, we looked for somebody who actually used baseball as a way to connect with the world. And now we have you, so we are lucky to have that. Thanks for thinking, and please stay connected because you might want to contribute to the other questions as well. Also, we have Alejandro Castro, I think from Costa Rica, who has an interesting football program, I think, in Costa Rica. So maybe, Alejandro, if you could hear me, if you have mic, again, briefly a few words about your experience in relation to this sport, in case you hear me. Probably he doesn't. Anyway, so we'll get back, Alejandro. Let me know, when you have the connection to be able to do that. Now, I would like to ask you, a question that is kind of a broader. Obviously, American football is a sport that is, we like to believe that it's specific to America and brings a lot of American characteristics. It's a passion. Baseball, to some extent, maybe broader in the world, but still that is, very much viewed as one of the important American sports. Basketball, the same thing. So I would like to think what you observed, noticed, see, in relation to America that could be conveyed to foreign audiences. What did you learn about America? What did you learn about yourselves? What did you learn about the communities that you are serving while being involved in this activity? Let's start with Tommy because I have him on the screen. So it's just a matter of, as you said a little bit earlier, using this sport that has, for lack of a better word, American flavor, in order to more or less project America, understand America better, understand yourselves, understand the communities.
Yeah, well, I think it's all context specific because if you use an example like Cuba, where, for 6 decades, there haven't been diplomatic relations and not a lot of Americans have even had the opportunity to travel to Cuba. I think it is the ultimate icebreaker because you have these two countries that are so close together and have parallel passions when it comes to baseball. So immediately when you start playing baseball, you just wear a baseball cap, walking around, for example, a city of Havana, you establish friendships, right? Because you speak that common language. So in that context, it wasn't very difficult to sort of say, hey, we both love this sport, let's be friends. And then it opens up other opportunities. Back to the Jamaica example, it's a little different because baseball wasn't really established there as much as isn't established there as much as a cultural institution. So it was just a way to sort of to connect and as a way to sort of show that what Americans love to do and the sort of sporting element that the countries and the cultures have in common. So really good window into sort of what that passion means.
Definitely. Paula, so in Brazil, obviously, soccer is king. And actually, we had this funny conversation before the webinar. If you call, American football and soccer the same way with the same Portuguese word in Brazil. So how do you, kind of your personal experience, you actually talk to people, from ESPN about football, you introduce the sport to a country that is, soccer obsessed. How does this play for you personally, for your audiences, in terms of introducing this sport that, it's kind of an import to some extent?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, we have for American football, like we use the same word as you said, but it's American football and football. But I think for American football, we have some barriers. That is the language, because a lot of the language uses in the sport, we can't really translate it. So we try to make it more friendly as possible. But I see that here in Brazil, people are seeking new things or different things like football because they are kind of bored with traditional soccer, because we just have soccer here, and it sometimes it's not enough. because it's only the same sport every time. We have a lot of different championships, and it's always the same teams and always the same method and everything. So we always discuss this on ESPN and with everyone that I know that loves football. It's always the same. They want something different and think that football gives us that. And as I said, we try to make it friendly because it's not an easy sport here, because it has a lot of different rules, a lot of exceptions, and you can't always understand what is happening if you don't understand that. But we try to make this more friendly as possible to gather every time more people to enjoy the sport.
Yeah, I perfectly understand that. I was born in Romania, so I was not accustomed to American football, and I'm still learning the rules, and I don't think that I'm going to live the day to know everything that actually is happens during a football game. It's a very complex game, and actually somebody was talking a little bit about rugby, and maybe our friends from Nigeria could help us. And I remember having this discussion at some point with somebody who told me that it's very interesting philosophically, that the rugby advances the play by passing the ball behind, while football advances the game by throwing the ball ahead of it. So I don't know if you could get into deep philosophies about why is that happening and what does it tell about the sport and the people who actually created the sport. But it's an interesting thought. So I know that we have Obi now probably from Nigeria online, and maybe Obi could tell us also again your filter the experience personally, and so what did you learn about America? What did you learn about yourself? What do you know about the community while promoting this sport in Nigeria? If Obi can hear me, if not,
yeah. Good evening, everyone. This is Obi from Nigeria here. American football has really taught a lot of things for me personally. In the game of American football, it's a game that is all about gaining of yards. It therefore shows that you need to be progressive minded. Okay, so when you are progressive minded, you need to stay focused for you to be able to achieve your set goals in life. And also, when we huddle in American football, when we call on a huddle, everybody comes together and a play is being communicated. So, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So like I'm saying, when we call on a huddle in American football, it's ability for we to communicate to one another. And when you get communicated, you're able to actualize a particular goal, as a team. And American football has also made me understand that everybody is needed, in the society, irrespective of your body size, the big guys, the small guys, everybody is welcome, to actualize a particular goal, a particular aim. And it's what we call division of labor. So you do your own job, I do my own job for the common good of the team. So going forward, also American football has, taught me that we need to watch out for one another. Okay, so when you stand for one another, you have a peaceful and you have a peaceful environment, a good working society. So when you in a team like American football, where we have over 53 players, people come from various walks of life, various walks of religion. People gather under one umbrella on a team, and they try to achieve a set goal. So football is just up there. It's a unifying factor where everybody can come and hit the mark there for we to get a particular goal, which is the touchdown or getting to the end zone, as the case may be in football. Thank you.
Yeah, very, very interesting thoughts. So maybe, Fuzia, you already, talked about your personal experience, but maybe you could explore, this thought a little bit, more, what you learned about America, and to what extent, bringing a sport that is actually so perceived as being so American, how do people react to it? The people that surround you. Fuzia?
Hi. So actually, when we introduced American football to the girls, the first thing that they thought about is American football is only for rich people or high class people. They didn't know that it's for everybody. So since the equipments were like very expensive to bring to Morocco, we had to do a collaboration with a foundation which is called Starlight Foundation. She was helping us with the equipment since the beginning of our teams. Now we are having like more than 16 teams in Morocco, and most of them are covered when it comes to the equipment, which is the big thing. And also, we are now working with the US Embassy in order to facilitate a lot of things, which is coaches clinic, referees clinic, just to make sure that the football in Morocco will be, the skills and everything is going to be improving. This is what we're actually doing now. But for the girls, they thought a lot of people misunderstand the fact that they are playing American football between rugby, because they don't know what's the difference. So we had to do clinics all over the years just to make sure that they don't mistake that again. But now, to be honest, things are way better. We just had like a camp with 3 NFL players just last week when I told you so. 3 NFL players came to us through the foundation that we are collaborating with, and they came to the launching of the first educational American Football Academy, which was amazing. Now we can say that people know what's the difference between American football and the rugby.
Yeah, that's great. Let's see if we have Coach OBJ still online, if you could hear me and if you could speak. So it is about, Coach, what you learned about Africa in all these years. So again, hopefully Coach OBJ hears me. So you went there in the 60s as a Peace Corps volunteer, and then you stayed. And so while working on basketball, what did you learn about the communities? If you could hear me, Coach OBJ. Probably not.
I don't think
Again, we keep the promise of doing a special on Coach OBJ, after. Alejandro Castro, are you?
I don't think I can hear you.
Oh, you can? You cannot, no?
Hi. I don't think so, but I just sent him a message to unmute himself.
And just tell him that, with you together, we are going to plan the OBJ special, in one of the webinars. So Alejandro Castro, if you could hear me and if you have a microphone, maybe you could share a little bit your experience with football.
Hello, good morning.
Hi.
How are you?
Good. So tell us briefly in a few words, so what your experience is in Costa Rica, if I'm not mistaken, no?
Well, there has always been, it all started about 30 years ago when cable television started. So on the regular cable, you could get 4 or 5 games a weekend on the Fox or ESPN network. So people started watching the games, and football is a very interesting sport, so people started liking it. So mid-90s we started playing tackle football. We had no equipment. We played in the dirt in this part of our country. When the NFL season's going, here is the hurricane season, so we used to play on the mud every Sunday. It was crazy, really, and it was beautiful. So the first game played in Costa Rica was 2000, in the year 2000, against Panama. And then the regular, so there was a big group of guys who used to play, US guys and people from Costa Rica. So I'm from the original, I'm 48, so I started a very long time ago in football. So in this game, we got lucky. We won by 1 point. It was 7-6. And then a few years passed, and in 2019, a first division men's league started, and it has been going on for 11 years. And unfortunately, that last 2 seasons hasn't been able to go because of the virus. And the development has been difficult, especially getting equipment. There's a lot of equipment involved. I myself have been participating in competition sports ever since I was 13. So I took it up as a career, and so I was in sports administration. So I've worked my coaching skills with USA Football, with the American Football Coach Association, with ONEFA in Mexico, with the Professional League in Mexico. And we have a women's league in Costa Rica already for 2 years. We have flag football. We have, so I'm always on the social media looking for new information, new partnerships. And I saw this, I knew this US sports diplomacy program through the Be a Coach program of USA Football with the Federation of Mexico. So right now I'm taking that course, and I knew about this. I like your profile face. And last night I saw the webinar and immediately I signed up, and I have already networked with a few people, and I'm gonna, for sure, if it's all okay with you, to contact you from Costa Rica.
Great idea. That's exactly what it's supposed to be. You know, a beginning conversation that leads to networking and connections. So please do that with us and all the speakers and all the network that we have. And thank you so much, Alejandro.
Please like our Facebook page, people. Get to know our team. You're gonna like what we have done here. Thank you, sir.
Post it in the chat. So,
thank you, sir.
Anna, you have a guest, I think, yeah?
Yeah, we have a very good story from Elliot Markuson that he's doing American football in China. Elliot, can you unmute your microphone and speak?
Yeah, hey Anna, how are y'all doing?
Yeah, good. Yeah, it's
awesome.
A good story you posted on chat, and I want everybody to hear it. So
yeah, absolutely. So I'm the son of an SEC football coach. I grew up around American football my whole life. I played at the University of Mississippi, which is, for y'all not in the United States, it's Division I, arguably the highest conference in collegiate football. So our games, I played in front of anywhere from 75 to 80,000 people. So I was really blessed to have that opportunity. I've been blessed my whole life through football and what it's done for me. And when I graduated from the University of Mississippi, Ole Miss, I moved overseas to China to teach. And as soon as you guys know, in the international world of sports, once you get into a new country, you get plugged in pretty fast. So once I got into China, I got plugged into the American football scene almost instantaneously. So coming from a coaching background in a household of coaches, it's just kind of second nature to me.
No, talk now. Please mute your microphone.
Andy, we hear me? No.
Coach, please mute your microphone until we finish the segment, Coach Johnson. And Elliot,
yeah, we can continue.
Yeah, absolutely. And as soon as I got to China, I got plugged into the American football scene. I collaborated with some like-minded individuals like myself. Ended up coaching a international high school with Chinese football players. And then I worked with a project with the NFL of China. And we did a 3-day camp in Shanghai where we coached Chinese coaches and Chinese players. In collaboration, we had Deshaun Watson fly out. And then, which was neat because they actually flew my dad out to being a football coach. So he got to come to China and experience, what my life had looked like for the past, 9 or 10 months. So now, I live in the United States. I'm a current member of Team USA bobsled. So transitioning sports from football to bobsled has been fun, but it all ties into the international sports realm and, what it can do for everybody in terms of camaraderie and being a part of something bigger than yourself. And that's what I'm about. Currently, we're in the works of getting another camp in China put together in the city of Chongqing, trying to work out visas and, what that would look like. But, as we move forward, I love American football. I love what it can do to bring communities together. I'm a product of it. And, I'd love to see it grow into more collaborative, camps or clinics in other countries. So
definitely,
that's my story.
Thank you, Elliot. And you could answer in the chat. Stacy asked you, how did you manage the language differences? So you had a conversation with her. And now that you are into bobsledding, the China Olympics is coming. So you could compete there in a new sport. Thank you. Please stay with us for a little bit. So I want to see if Coach OBJ wants to say a few words about his experience in Africa in relation to basketball, just very briefly. Coach OBJ, can you help? Can you
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So briefly.
Yeah, I have.
We have only a little time.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes. We can hear you.
You can hear me?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Okay. Where do we want to start? What was the question?
So the question was, your overall experience, very briefly, personal experience going to Africa, teaching basketball. What did you learn about Africa, and what did they learn about America?
Oh, I learned how to be an African. That's what I learned. I have lived in Africa. Out of 81 years, I've been in Africa since 1967. Yeah. So I have changed residence. Now, what have I learned? That's going to be in the program that you're going to do, the full program.
Yeah, definitely. We have sound problems. Yeah, we have sound problems, so we cannot hear well. So when you do the webinar,
but what I like, yes, and it's to continue.
Yeah. So we'll make sure that this time we do the webinar with you, we're going to have good connection, because right now the sound connection is not very good. So I would say,
So, community, you have.
Yeah, we cannot hear you. So maybe
why don't you move on? I will communicate with Coach OBJ.
Yeah, and we'll do that. We'll do the next webinar with him specifically, and we'll make sure that the connection is good. Yeah,
that's correct.
Let's move. We have a few minutes left, so I would like to go through all of you. So actually, I love that during this webinar we actually expanded the list of panelists, pretty significantly, which is the first time we are doing. But there's so much, interest in actually the topic and spreading this sports, all over the world. So my question is a little bit about the future. So obviously, we've all been going through a very tough experience, COVID. That means, it has been a global experience. It changed our lives significantly. But we are looking towards the future right now. So if you look at the future of the games that we are talking about, meaning American football, baseball, basketball to some extent, so what needs to be done in the future as we get out of this difficult period? How do you reach more communities, more young people? What support is needed? How do you see the future of continue to globalize these sports? That's the main question. So let's start with maybe Paula, since it's important to have a journalist in the beginning on this topic, and then we'll move to the other speakers.
Yeah, so I think especially here in Brazil, we don't have much sponsors for the sport, because even though we have a lot of people who loves football, they are not that interested in watching a non-professional league, so we really need some investment, some people that really look at the sport as something profitable, because that's what is about at the end, so we need some sponsors who can try to grow the sport and make it more professional here in Brazil, because here we don't have like really good places to play. We don't have anything more. All the players must pay themselves for the equipment, to travel, to do everything, So we really need some organization to look at it and say, no, this is something that we really need to focus on, and try to get more sponsors to the sport to make it grow faster and in a more professional way. I think this is the biggest challenge here in Brazil.
But you feel that it has a future at the grassroots level? So there are players left, of soccer and the other sports.
I'm not sure because I think yes, but not in a short period, in a short term. Because here in Brazil, people really love soccer, and it's really difficult to put this kind of sport on schools, for example, or to play anywhere because of the equipment and everything. So I think in short term, it's really difficult this to happen. In the long term, maybe.
ESPN games have good audience?
Yes. Actually, ESPN already broadcasted one Brazilian final, our championship, and it was really good. So it just happened once, but I think it should be happen more often, so people get used to watch non-professional players playing the sport and trying to get more interested about it.
Definitely. Let's move to Nigeria. So Chukwuemeka or Obi, what do you think about the future of grassroots, development in Nigeria for football? Who wants to take this?
Yeah, actually, we have a grassroots program, football development. The year 2017, we have, Youth Football League, like Alia mentioned. We've been developing on that, and trying as best as possible to spread the sport to the other part of Nigeria. We started off, the northern part of Nigeria, Zaria. And then today, presently, I'm in Calabar, trying to put up something here in Calabar. And then to be able to continue to spread the sport. I see a lot of potentials coming from these kids. Most of these kids, go through the ranks, be able to, show their talent and as well as attract interest from schools abroad. Some of them playing in high schools, in the US, in colleges, in junior colleges, and as well as progressing to universities. This is what we want to do. We want to be able to use sports as a vehicle to reach out to the kids, to be able to give them a life, and actualize their God-given talents and destiny through education. So our program is also trying as much as possible to get football along with education, because you can't play football without the proper education, and as well as improve the life of these kids. So grassroots level, we're working so hard, and then we're looking out to continue to improve where we are. Yeah.
Thank you. What about Fuzia? So in Morocco, and let's talk a little bit about women and girls, playing and enjoying this game. So what's the situation there? What's the future? To what extent grassroots, functioning well?
So actually what I'm trying to do, and what we are trying to do with our partners here in Morocco, or international partners, and also the is to give them the access to education through American football in order to have a better future, maybe a scholarship. As I told you that we reached out to NAIA, and they are very interested in giving scholarship to American football players in Morocco, in whole Africa. So we are trying to give them like a better future through sports, because a lot of parents didn't allow them to play because they thought that it's going to be just a waste of time, since most of the girls in Morocco get married in a young age, because most of the parents don't believe in sports that are going to be opening doors to their girls. They just want them to get education and get married. That's it. So now we signed the first one of my girls is a Moroccan, and she also had the first scholarship in order to go to a school to study abroad, which is college. And she was lucky enough to sign with them, and she will be studying out there in the next semester. So, which is cool. It's an option. It's an opportunity that wasn't given for us, and now it does. So most of the girls are interested in playing American football and study as well in order to get that opportunity to. So things are going well, what I can see now.
I'm sure that Anna, my co-moderator, loves what you said, because the head of women football, the other football, soccer football in Armenia. So the idea of promoting these games among women and girls is extremely important, and it's it's positive that it makes good steps in that direction, both in Morocco, in Armenia, and the other sport, and so forth. So I'm not sure if either Coach Johnson or his friend wants to say a little bit about, continue to spread basketball at the grassroots level. Can you hear me? Okay, so the question is, okay, so Africa is on the map in terms of basketball right now. Yeah, so the NBA is full of African players. The sport is developing in Africa tremendously. What's the next step?
Well, there's still a whole lot of stuff to be done. The grassroots program there, what Coach OBJ has started, it's called Basketball for Peace, which I'm part of. We use basketball as a means, especially in the North right now, to broker peace. What does that mean? So what we do, actually, we go to an area where there's conflict and where there's fighting going on. A lot of time what happens is that even though there's fighting going on, these kids are still kids, they want to play. So we take the kid, we go into those difficult areas and we bring the kids together. And because they're interested in playing basketball, we can talk to them. And because the kids then trust us, and then we can then use the kid to be able to talk to the parents to end the conflict in certain areas. And that has been going very well. That is something that we're trying to develop, especially in Nigeria, a whole lot in a lot of different areas.
And you are very close geographically to those areas of conflict now.
Yeah, we are. Basketball for Peace is all over in Nigeria. We have it in the Niger Delta area, out in the east, where OBJ is out in the north, but it's all over in Nigeria. And we're just expanding it, and we're giving a lot of these kids opportunity to be able to use basketball as a means to go into different careers in their lives.
Yeah, definitely. Elliot, if you're still with us, again, football in China is not the first thing that you think of, when you think about China. So what do you think? It has a future, the sport in China?
Yeah, I think it's growing really rapidly. One of the guys that I worked on a project with, he met with the NFL commissioner of Asia. Basically, China's market cap is growing. We all know this exponentially, right? Their market's going to take over the United States market in the next couple of years. So their push for athletics and more consumer goods, and to see their teams and their players do well, that's what they want. I actually had a meeting with another kind of colleague earlier this week. He's working with the NBA of China and doing similar camps, right? And they have the same mindset as they grow, and the Chinese government says, like, hey, we want to invest more in sports for our kids because it develops leadership, discipline, camaraderie across boundaries, right? And so that's what we're working on. To answer your question, yeah, it's growing exponentially.
Does it help that it's an American sport, or perceived as being an American sport? How does this play in China?
It offers a novelty that they look for. They love foreign goods and investment, right? Like you could see, if any of those who've been to China, there's a KFC and a Starbucks on every street corner, right? They love Western brands and they love Western sports and media. And so you see that with the NBA, soccer, and then even in their bid to host the 2022 Winter Olympics, right? It's more exposure to them. And as they progress as a society and their next generations, right? They see the value in sports just like all of us do.
Definitely. Do you plan to go back?
Yeah, actually I do. Right now I work in a company that does international trade, but on the side I do projects like the camp we're trying to put on in China. So my goal is to be back and forth, and not just China too, is to be able to set up a foundation where we could be going all over the world with old ex-college athletes who still want to be involved with the game, because I saw firsthand what it did for me on an international level.
As you do that, please keep in touch, because we have to make changes that might connect. I'm not sure if Tommy is still with us, with the same question about grassroots development, baseball in the Caribbean, or whatever else you have. So Tommy, are you still with us?
Yes. Well, I think post-COVID for all sports, all youth sports represents a huge opportunity. Of course, there's a lot of pent-up demand, and kids are going to want to get out and see each other and play, compete, and learn. I think baseball is a unique challenge because in the countries where it's not quite established, it takes a lot of work to get it established and to teach the rules. And more than that, there's a lot of equipment involved. Even in those countries where kids have traditionally played a lot of baseball in the Caribbean, you see, and I'll use the Cuba example, you see soccer really surging. And part of that is exposure because, you only need a ball and you can go out and just kick it around, 2 kids. But for baseball, you need a lot of equipment, you need a lot of kids. And then, related to that, then if you try to introduce it into more markets, it's going to take continuity, it's going to take a lot of commitment, local partners, and folks traveling on the ground to teach the game and make sure that there is that continuity. In the new markets that we worked, like Jamaica, that was what we always heard, is like, okay, great, this is fun, but how are we going to sustain this as an ongoing activity? The first time in 13 years, baseball will be played at the Olympics this year, so that's an opportunity to showcase it internationally. But again, I think the challenges baseball faces is the equipment, complexity of the rules, and then finding local partners to continue to teach the game.
Thank you. So this has been a fascinating discussion, and I hope that we'll be able to continue it in other webinars in the future. I want to thank the panelists, Chukwumeka, Coach Johnson, and with the promise that we are going to do an OBJ special soon. His friend Fuzia, Paula Obiora, and our new friends that joined this webinar as panelists Tommy, Alejandro, Elliot. Again, this illustrated tremendous reach of these sports and the fact that through sports we could accomplish lots of developmental goals that is, with peace, starting with peace, but also all kinds of other objectives in youth development, something that we all do. And we really hope that through in-person exchanges in the future, hopefully near future, and through these virtual engagements, we'll be able to reach out to you again and build together, with all these programs, because there's so much promise, there's so much hope, and there are so many amazing accomplishments. So I want to remind everybody this has been a webinar produced by World Learning, Digital Communication Network, and the International Sports Programming Initiative of the State Department. I want to thank my co-moderator, Anna, my colleagues, and Laurel, Nicole, and the World Learning team for this webinar. Wish you all, safety in whatever you do, and hopefully we'll soon be able to, look behind this horrible period that we had with the pandemic. That stay in good health, safely, and enjoy what you do and the tremendous work that you do for the development of sports, not only with American flavors, but sports in general. So again, thank you so much for being with us. Hope to see you at the next webinar. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, Faiza, thank you. Bye-bye.